Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on this Monday. We have an awful lot of ground to cover because it's been a crazy couple of weeks in Irish Greyhound racing. Over the past weekend, we've seen Ledger action, we've seen Juvenile Derby action, Irish Sprint Cup, Maiden Derby, and more. And of course, we have to discuss it with a couple of very wise men. The exiled dub, Tommy Lyons, is with us as always. And of course, the crooner that is Joe Sheahan on a bit of
Hey,
a sabbatical from Dubai. He's back in Ireland, perhaps doing a few gigs, but I'm absolutely certain he was at Limerick on Saturday night because he had a winner in the opening race. Joe, were you there on Saturday night?
I didn't make it, unfortunately. I had to play a few tunes. Back for another Greyhound man, Jimmy Brown and Ballyhigh. But yeah, we had a gang of us there involved in Stonehall Mel. There's about 10 lunatics involved in Syndicate. So great start to the career, big win in 29-21. And I love staying involved in lots of different syndicates at the moment and a good few syndicates out in Dubai. So spreading the good word about Greyhound racing over there too. So it's great to see a couple of syndicates coming up on the score sheet. Thank God.
I don't know, do you, Tommy, now €305 for winning the opening race at Limerick on Saturday night and getting what, a couple of grand for a gig on Saturday night as well. The power of the mighty dollar, I'm afraid, persuaded Joe to stay away from Limerick. I'm sure it won't persuade him to stay away this Saturday night. A good classic down at Limerick. It's starting to bubble on, Tommy, but very much the headlines will go to a certain Clonbrine Treaty, a dog who has won the Ledger for the last 2 years. I posted on Saturday night that if he does happen to win this Ledger, they may have to rename the stand after him. It's just a remarkable greyhound, but he's just ever more remarkable when it comes to Limerick.
And you know what? It was just a perfect performance too. There was a time in his career when he was missing the kick, showing massive early pace and getting caught late and that sort of stuff and things going wrong. I mean, you can go through his career and find a performance as perfect as that one. I don't know if you'll do it. Just popped out, made all. He had Dale Road Duke, chasing him hard the whole way. It's um it's remarkable that he's not that old, but I mean when you've been down around for 3 seasons and you're looking for a third classic, I mean Bockos Diamond will talk about him later on, but he has to do something special in the Derby if he's going to be Dog of the Year. If Clonbrine Treaty wins a third ledger like that would be something utterly remarkable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and last time it was done, did Bonus Prince win three Cesaroviches in a row? I'm not sure. He certainly won two in a row. Joe, Clonbrine Treaty, you know, track specialist seems to do him an injustice. Obviously, he's won an Easter Cup at Shelbourne Park, but since the new Limerick has opened up, have you ever seen a dog that just seems to really come to life as much as this fella has? Like, aside from two Ledgers, like he's won a Kirby Memorial as well. Like, that's just pretty remarkable.
I think it's a very fitting name for him, isn't it? Clonbrine Treaty, of course, the Murphys named him after Limerick and their glorious All Ireland successes, which are starting to dry up, unfortunately. But yeah, I think maybe even skipping Toaster this year has done him the world of good for in terms of this ledger, in terms
Well, it
of
has to be
getting.
mentioned. There's a reason why he skipped Toaster. He was retired.
Yeah,
The dog was that stud. It clearly hasn't done him any harm. Obviously, may not be getting as many bitches as you probably thought he might have done. And connections felt, well, he's fresh and well in himself. He was throwing up sods at home. So let's have a go.
do you know what I really loved about this performance? Remember last year he was getting collared close home, and you're wondering, oh, is he the same dog as who won the Ledger in the first year round? And these splits from the other night completely emulated his semi-final run, which was when he started really rising to the top. And it's pretty much carbon copy from his splits from. I literally have it on my book here, my Greyhound book from the splits last year. So his semi-final last year was 29.50, 17.13, 5.33, and then the other night was pretty much give or take the same. You had 17-11, 5.32, and winning in 29.48. So that just shows you he's even given his age and given the amount of races he's done, he's literally in peak condition. And yeah, it's a phenomenal story. I mean, you had Monarch of the Glen, he won back
Peak
to back
condition,
Legends.
peak condition like ourselves, Tommy.
Like,
Peak
Well, you
condition.
know,
Tommy, do you have a Greyhound book?
no, I don't.
this is the Greyhound
It's
boy,
all
but
in
look,
here.
it's all
Yeah,
on
all
here.
in here and out here.
Dale Duke was second. Ballyhimmock and Ben was back in third. Just a remarkable story. He was 3-1 on the night. I dare say he won't be 3-1 next week. He obviously gets his draw at Limerick every night. He's a guaranteed wide seed. He just runs a really true line. Draw for the game. He just loves it, and you can see by him that he just he's just a dog that's absolutely loving life. And well done to all involved, to the Riverside Kennels, to Graham Holland, and of course to the Murphys who brought him back and well are enjoying the fruits, as we say. Before we move on in the ledger, I just want to give a mention. It's sponsored by Dennis Murphy, obviously Callaway Pro Am at Stud, Irish St. Ledger, and a big congratulations to all our Kerry watchers. Of course, the Ballymac team will be very happy down there, but it's more than just the Ballymac team down in Kerry in terms of greyhound racing. Dennis Murphy, a proud Kerry man, he sent me a picture last night. He said, "Is this the first greyhound to appear in Croke Park?" Because one of the sponsors of the Kerry team is Callaway Pro Am at Stud. There's a little ad in the card or in the program, and there you have a picture of the dog himself, Callaway Pro Am. So well done, Dennis. Never miss a trick, Dennis. Never miss a trick. And hopefully all is going well with Callaway Pro Am at Stud. Moving on, the second heat went to Fay Point Harvey. This wasn't crash bang wallop like you would often expect from this fellow. Didn't quite get the start he normally gets, Joe, but he too, he's a battle hardened performer. He's now very much proven in this grade, and if you look at the way they finished, 5-4, 2-1, 3-1, 6-1, and then the two outsiders, it went to plan, although he had to work a little bit harder than many expected. But once going to the front of that corner, the son of Druppy Sydney and Roaming Shari was just that little bit too good. Wins by a length and a half. Just a great all-rounder, a real solid act.
Yeah, I really like this performance, and he's now 2 on the bounce. 291 split. He's shown good early in his last couple of starts as well. Coming home in 12:34 and doing 5:34 to the corner as well. I mean, he's starting and staying, and he definitely has the makings and the quality and depth in there to potentially be a Ledger champion. I think if you're looking at one who's for a potential champion here, you have to have Fay Point Harvey up there with the best of them in this one.
Yeah, Tommy's a dog we've spoken about many times before. He's a dog that I've not knocked is the wrong term, but I just find he does find one or two too good from when it really counts. But this is one of those classics where there isn't an awful lot between the top two or three in the market, and he certainly deserves to be amongst them.
Look, I be with you. I think he will when it comes down to the crunch, he'll find something too a few too good from. But he's fairly solid dog, isn't he? Like, I mean, he showed a good attitude the other night. He had the two dog challenging the whole way. The blast off Hefo dog, blast off Hefo didn't want to be carried wide the way he was and taking the route he wanted, and more. He was more inclined to be trying to switch in and just couldn't get it until too late. He beat the length and a half, but look, it's hard to grab a dog that it's a solid running is what I'd say. I think you have it right, and I think I'm on along the same lines as you with Fay Point Harvey.
Yeah, he it is worth pointing out just on English Derby final night, he flashed out, did the 28.78 on the night that the English Derby won in 28.76. Now we've spoken enough about that race, but just there is that flying start in him, and if he did get to the final in a favourable draw, certainly not one you'd be ruling out. I think he's a better dog this year than he was last year. I think he's matured into a really nice dog, so keep that in mind. Hello, Diego. Hello, Diego does what Hello, Diego does. Sorry, just before I go there, a blast off Hefo was obviously second for Philip Buckley. Philip has not. He's no, he's not adverse to throwing up at a bit of a surprise result in the Ledger himself, a Ledger winner in recent years. This blast off Hefo continues to progress well. 2-1 in the market suggests that it wouldn't have been a shock by any stretch of the imagination if he'd gone on to win the race. So he's still there pitching, and Magical Sapphire was back in third. She's just a good strong runner for Pat Guilfoyle. Moving on to the third heat. Hello, Diego, doing Hello, Diego type things, Tommy. You know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to pop out. He's going to race prominently. He's going to swing wide, give away a few lengths around the first two bends. And then from the third bend home, he absolutely engages top gear. He wins 6.5 lengths after throwing away a couple of lengths around the opening two bends and handing the leader an advantage of probably 3 to 4 lengths. But Hello, Diego, later in the year, I can't see him winning a Derby. I could see him winning a Ledger perhaps, but I'll tell you one thing. 575 600 at Shelbourne Park would be right up the street, or indeed at Limerick, in the likes of a winter racing festival. He doesn't quite get the 750, so that's why I'm saying that. But I think he's a real 600-yard greyhound. From the third bend home, it was just awesome. He set the standard, 29.41.
Has he run over 600 yet? No, I don't think he
He may
has.
have had one 575 run. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I
He's
just
done
think that.
750 and 575. Yeah, no, I don't think any 600 yet.
Yeah, I think my concern with him would be the longer run up would give him more time to lose the ground, and then it's hard to recover. I mean, it's a bit 575 and 600, or even they're not quite as the Derby yet, but their dogs don't tend to come back anymore. they're flying, they're starting and staying, and just concerned about that where he loses that ground. You're right though, he can win a ledger. He definitely can win a ledger if he can break like that, continue to break like he did the other night, and kind of match them to almost the first bend, then give away his 3 or 4 lengths. It won't be simple to get it back. But like, he was impressive here. I actually thought Flight Club had a small chance. I just thought it was the run the previous day, or the first round was a good run, and I thought he's a dog that still looks kind of like he's learning a bit. Flight Club.
Mm.
And I still thought looking again the other night, like, I mean, he's beaten 8 lengths. He's probably entitled not to qualify going down the
He's
back.
been very lightly raced. Obviously, after his Kirby Memorial Challenge, they
Mm,
threw him over 750, and that first night it just didn't happen. From Born to Perform got loose, and
yeah,
he sort of found traffic and whatnot. Because I do think he's a dog that will stay further, Fight Club, but he's been off the track since then. So you're
yeah.
talking a 3 month absence, coming back, 2 runs in the ledger, first runs over 550 yards. So there is certainly better to come from him.
Well,
It's just a case of whether he's sharp enough.
he's a dog. Yeah, he's a dog that you could see doing an early round of a derby, doing a big clock. All right, well, it's a smart clock, a 29:50 kind of clock. He's that type of dog. I think he is anyway. Looking at him, but like, none of them were a match for Hello Diego. When he took off third bend, it was a joy to watch. He
Mm.
just absolutely powered clear. I mean, it was Hello Diego, and then do joy with the rest of them.
He
Yeah,
did 12,
we had
12:06.
go ahead.
12:06 from the third bend home. Like, that's phenomenal running. Like, that's
Yeah.
probably the best split coming home to date. And yeah, I really liked his 2 performances.
You have to give mention to Drumbeg Banner. I was going to say young Evan McAuliffe, but we've been saying young Evan McAuliffe for about 3 or 4 years. He's probably in college, probably gone through college at this stage. What age would Evan be now, Joe? It just seems to be every year he finds one to
Would,
get into the latter stages.
would you believe I was only on the phone to him this morning? I said, "Are you still 17?" Because I feel like I'm saying 17-year-old Evan McAuliffe for ages. Evan is 18, but
Oh,
he's a
Jesus.
fantastic
Sure, he's
trainer.
done. He's done. He's over the hill.
He
Veteran.
said to me this morning, "I'm heading for 19 now, unfortunately." But it's a nice story. He was called Drumbeg Benner after the last racehorse his grandfather had, who was quite a good horse. So, and he was actually bred by the aforementioned Colm O'Connell, who was 17 going on 18, maybe 19. Colm down in Askeaton, County Limerick, down my direction. So he's bred by him out of his bitch Hazelfield Echo, who's been a phenomenal brew bitch throughout the likes of Stars and Frankie, in that really, really good line there. So, and I know Evan and Colm are great friends, but they're taking a Limerick by light at the moment. They're absolutely flying at the two lads. So it's great to see. But Evan's strike rate is phenomenal. Like, the Drumbeg dogs, and it's no coincidence. Like, I know you need a rub of the green and you need to look in greyhound racing, but Evan is producing his dogs week in, week out in Limerick, doing a phenomenal job. And I think it's a real good news story, and we need to shout it from the rooftops about our young people doing so well. Even Colin Fitzgerald there, 21 years of age, I know we'll speak about it soon, Flyers Mini, and having that syndicate. But it's really, really great to see the young people doing so well in greyhounds, and long may it last.
Absolutely. Well, we're after giving the first three I mentioned. So let's get to the aforementioned Flyers Mini. Like, we see big price winners in classics at times, 10, 12, 14 to 1. I'll tell you, Tommy, you have to go a long, long way to find one winning at 33 to 1. Flyers Mini. Joe, you tell us the story. Wins a short head from Droopy's Deploy, a Ballyhimmican jet out of Liscar of Lila for the 0-0 syndicate, trained by young Colin Fitzgerald.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was playing a gig out in Murty Brown's there last year in Anthony Daly's pub. And
Another couple of grand, Tommy.
I'm a volunteer. I'm only a volunteer. It's only yourself. And I met young Colin Fitzgerald out there. He's living out that direction. But what a great young character. And I was speaking to him after Saturday night. I know that victory meant so much to them. There's a great gang of lads in the syndicate with him, the Fitzgeralds, Joe Kelly, and Nicholas O'Dwyer as well. And he said she's a bit of a lively character. He said this from a young age. This bitch has been hopping 6 to 7 foot gates. So they've had an awful job to try and keep her contained. And anytime she's out in the paddock, but she's a 61-pound bitch. But my God, she's full of heart. She's full of guts. And it'd be nice to see her go a long, long way for that syndicate as well. And I know for the likes of a small kennel like Colin Fitzgerald and being 21 and starting off and training. A victory like that, that's what greyhound racing is all about, and they're absolutely over the moon. And I wish them the best of luck. Well, all of them the best of luck, but it'd be really lovely to see Flyers Mini get to the final.
It's one thing qualifying to this point of the competition, Tommy, but when you're winning a heat, for connections like that, it just adds so much more to it. She has a 28.84 around Galway, coming from second. She has a 28.62 around Limerick, but she's clearly just found a bit of form. She's in great heart, it seems, and she's Only a puppy in October 23. There's not an awful lot of. She's 61 pounds. It's not a small bitch by any stretch of imagination, but she showed a lot of guts and determination off that last bend. I dare say she probably had the right dog coming at her. Droopy's Deploy, who what I've always seen, he's a far better greyhound out front rather than trying to pick one up. But she dug in because he looked for all the world he was going to win 50 yards from home.
Down the back, he was a 101. I'd say in running betting, he was he was there was carnage if such a thing existed. There would have been. He looked a certainty down the back. Showed a great attitude for
Mm.
such a young bitch. I mean, such a great attitude just to battle and battle because Droopy Supply is capable of fast times. You can argue what you like about Droopy Supply and whether he drove on to win the race or whatever he did or didn't do, but it's still a fair performance. 29.92. It's not a lightning clock, but it's still a fair clock for an October pup. A bitch against dogs, and she's a 61 pounder beside a 74 pounder and 80-pound dog behind. Like that's it can be intimidating. A lot to like about it. A lot to like about that now.
It is worth pointing out, like this was probably one of the deeper heats, given the fact that the likes of Cornicova, Bockos Sapphire, Droopy's Deploy in good time, of course, a track record holder in his time, and KG Billy, remarkably consistent performer for Chris Delaney. He was back in third spot, so this was by no means a weak heat. Yes, it was the slowest of the heat winners in 29.92, but again, she did everything right to win, and well done to all involved. And now we're down to the last 12, Joe. It starts to get interesting. Obviously, at this point, it's all about qualification next weekend. But at the same time, it'd be nice to get there on the back of a win. What are your thoughts on the two semi-finals? The first heat, Flyers, Mini, Delro Duke, Drumbeg, Banner, Clonbrine Treaty, Ballyhimmock and Ben and Flight Club. I said earlier on, Clonbrine Treaty is going to get his draw every night. Well, he's in trap four the next night. And he's got an early pace in his inner there with Drumbeg, Banner. Obviously, Delro Duke is capable of going up fast. It's just not as straightforward as you'd like for Clonbrine Treaty. Although I don't think four will be a major issue for him if he traps.
It's been a long time. I can't remember the last time Clonbrine Treaty had trap four, the black jacket. You're just so synonymous with the stripes coming from the white outside. So might throw a bit of a spanner in the works. I think Dale Duke is a phenomenal dog. Is he the kind of dog that can go? I know he won it. Obviously that
Champion Stakes last year,
yeah,
yeah.
Champion Stakes, which was a 2-run event. But I suppose being a 48 dog event this year, the Ledger might help the cause of Dale Duke. But he's all class. He's a track record holder in Tralee. Who better to be training him than Patrick Ilfoyle, of course, won the Ledger before with Skywalker, Rory. But you'd have to fancy Clonbrine Treaty to come up to trumps in the opening semi-final for sure. You can see Dale Duke making a move there. Hopefully Flyers Mini can improve a couple of lengths and get that pitch along the rail and stay there and avoid a bit of traffic. It'd be a lovely, good news story to see the likes of them make it to the final as well. And Drumbeg Banner as well, that early pace, absolutely lethal early pace that Drumbeg Banner has. Could be joining Clonbrine Treaty up there to the opening corner. But Treaty's a very clever dog. He moves very elegantly, and you'd expect him to navigate that first bend if he can avoid any traffic problems.
Yeah, I'll be sticking with the even numbers, Tommy. 426 or 462 would be how I'd be seeing it. I'd be taking a chance that Clonbrine Treaty will again get loose from four. In fact, he may even trap that little bit better from four. If you look at his sectionals, they're as good as he's probably done around Limerick recently. Probably a bit more consistent at boxes than he was in his youth. Delro Duke obviously has the class, and Flight Club perhaps picking up the pieces. That's the way I see it. How about yourself?
Yeah, similar. Just Clonbrine Treaty hasn't run in from Trap Four in Limerick since the third round of the Kirby Memorial, but he's had 3 runs out of Trap Four. He won that night 28-31. He was beaten runner up twice in different tracks, I think, from Trap Four. But it should look at this stage of his career shouldn't be that big a concern. I didn't think what I liked about his run the other night. It looked perfectly clean in the sense that there was no edge and left, edge and right, doing anything silly. It was just a perfect run. You'd be kind of half expected from a dog of his age, but like if there was any kind of niggle from his career before he retired and came back, it would be evident. It just wasn't. He just looked to be in really, really good shape. I'd expect him to win, even though Drumbeg Banner has good early pace. Dale Road Duke can probably break even better than he did the other night. He is still a danger, despite the fact that Clonbrine Treaty beat the other night. I'm like you. I'm kind of more that I'm seeing. Flight Club's not going to win Ledger at this stage, but I've seen enough in flight dub to think that it's going to develop into a fair animal. It's only at 8 runs. I mean, it's it's entitled to continue to improve, and it's kind of more hoping that it might pick up the pieces and finish in third place than be confident that it would fill the tricast, to be honest about it. But Clonbrine Treaty is just a great story. It's just a great story.
Unbelievable. On to the second heat, and I'd say the betting will be sort of strongly in favour of the likes of Fay Point Harvey, Hello Diego, and Droopy's Deploy. I would imagine the other three will be available at biggish prices. Much will depend on where Hello Diego can turn. I suggest Fay Point Harvey might actually start favourite despite the differences in price, the differences in clocks last week. Just given the fact that he's drawn on the inside there, if he produces one of his better starts, he's the most likely pace setter. Hello Diego will throw away that length or two around the opening two bends. That said, if he gets a clear passage, he'll be absolutely hammering home. They'd be the two I'd be siding with Droopy's Deploy, seen as the best of the rest. Perhaps maybe Magical Sapphire getting involved on the outside. It's a tricky enough affair, but Fay Point Harvey for me. What about yourself, Tommy?
Hello Diego for me. Even though like his style of running is just not something I like. I mean, if you want to lose ground there, you're leaving yourself open to all sorts of things. If your best work isn't around the first two bends, you're leaving yourself into as you get deeper into competition. We're now in a semi final of a classic. You're leaving yourself open to finding all sorts of trouble and things like that. But like, he was in such rude health the other night. I mean, it was impressive. It was just impressive the way he finished off that race. And as Joe said, the clocks backed it up as well. If he's in that good a health, he beats these.
Yeah. Yeah, my fear is that he just does lose that little bit of ground. And if Fay Point
Oh,
Harvey,
it's
well, he had his 29.83 or 29.73 is his best runner in Limerick thus far. I think he's capable of doing 29.50, and I just think that'll be hard enough to peg back.
yeah. I'm not fully convinced.
Joe?
They say great minds think alike, Tommy, and I'm backing the exile
I can
double.
even.
Or as my grandmother used to tell me, fools seldom differ. But yeah, I'm going with hello Diego as well. I was blown away by his performance last week, and such an improvement on the clock. He came forward 6 lengths, and I like Paul Hennessy in a competition. Just his training methods, his dogs kind of. Sometimes they go in under the radar and come to the fore, but he's a great training method of just getting them through and improving week in, week out. And that goes to say like six lengths of improvement last Saturday night. I could see even further improvement from Hello Diego. And I'd be going with him as well. But then again, Fay Point Harvey definitely won't be far away. Hasn't done much wrong in the last kind of couple of weeks as well. I like the way Blast Off Heifer ran as well, and of course Philip Buckley won the Ledger back in 2018, I believe it was, a Blast Off Jet. Very, very shrewd trainer, reasonably young, kind of lightly raced dog as well, Hefo, so could snatch a qualifying spot as well from the red jacket.
Yeah. A fascinating ledger. We're down to the last 12, Joe. What's the atmosphere like down there? How does the slot in the calendar fit in? What's the atmosphere about that, or what's the thoughts on it? It seems a bit squeezed in. I think I prefer the old later slot for it.
Yeah, I mean, 48 entries, from I suppose from a Limerick perspective, you'd be hoping for 72 or more. I suppose there is so much happening, years ago, the Ledger had its slot later on in the year, but I suppose it's the new reality now. I mean, the quality is there with 48, but obviously from a Limerick perspective, we'd much prefer to have more rounds and more greyhounds in it. But I mean, we can't complain. Look at the 12 that are left. It's full of quality. It's full of depth. And really looking forward to the semi-finals this weekend. It's a huge news story with Clonbrine Treaty. I mean, we had double up with Monaco de Glyn in 42 and 43, and time of please for the great John McKenna in 71 and 72. But could Treaty make it 3? That'd be some piece of history to write for Clonbrine Treaty. So there's a lot of young people involved in the game, which is wonderful. So there's a lot of good storylines in this year's Ledger. So I suppose we'll take the glass half full approach, and there's a lot of positives to take from it as well.
Yeah, in terms of the big four, the Derby, the Oaks, the Derby, the Oaks, the Laurels, and the Ledger. Only Spanish Battleship has won three classics. You're going back to the mid-50s. It would be pretty remarkable, Tommy. And it doesn't matter where the Ledger's slotted in or what the company's like. The fact of the matter is, if he goes out and win a third Ledger, it'll be historic.
It will. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge, and it doesn't matter if it's changed and it's brought it forward, and it might help a dog bidding for a third one because he's getting a bit older, and every month or a couple of months at this stage will can have an impact. But like, it's not the point of it really. It's still a leisure, it's still a classic. It mightn't be the strongest leisure we've ever seen, but like there's still good dogs there that are going to win Derby heats as well when the time comes. So no, he was whatever happens for the rest of the competition, it's given a lift to the leisure, if you ask me. It's given a lift even the first round before, and to see him in the first round, and then to see what he did. Like he did what we expected in the first round. He led, and he got picked off. We thought, you know what? I thought anyway, probably be the same thing the other night. But to see him actually, I just thought I said it already, but I thought it was a really, really solid, perfectly good, flawless performance. Trapped to line, no deviating left, no deviating right, doing anything wrong, or just a just what you'd expect from a top class greyhound.
Yeah, he went faster the other night than he did in any other round, bar the final last year. Like so,
Mm.
it tells its own tale. It's only a 4 run competition this year, so the wheels aren't going to just fall off. He has 2 more runs left. And he's still a month shy of his fourth birthday.
Say,
The 29th of August is his fourth birthday. So
Ian, he's like
I'd say,
yourself.
I'd
He's
say,
aging like a fine wine.
what can I say, Joe? What can I say?
he's
Look, no
I'm
reason
sure
to mention
connections are,
they're gorgeous.
but I'm sure connections are nervous enough about it too. I don't know if they get nervous, but I'm sure. Well, if I was involved, I'm sure it would be, regardless of the fact all he's won before and that he owes them absolutely zero. Um, that like you thought, wow, we've won 2 leisures. That's we're in among some great dogs. Now we're going for 3. Like it could be history making. It's brilliant, absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant.
Well,
Nerve wracking though.
what do we fail to mention is like there's also a Kirby and an Easter Cup. So this
I'm
this
saying
is
like that's just
potentially a
all he's
fifth
achieved.
classic success. He's won already 173,280 euro. Like, as you say, I don't think he owes them anything. No, you're right, he
No,
doesn't.
it doesn't.
It's a lot. I'll tell you what, that's a lot of stud fees. You know what I mean?
It's like
I
that's
think
like Joe and the
like
Dubai tax man.
What? What's that word? What's that T word you said? I didn't hear what it is. But
Joe, this is where we're going to leave you. A pleasure as always. Will you be back next week talking to us? Unfortunately, I won't be here, but will you be back?
next week, I think I am. I think I'm in the calendar next week. Please God, yeah.
Man, Joe.
Before
Man.
before we go, I'd like to echo your sentiments about Dennis Murphy and his sponsorship. He's a fantastic man. I remember him from years ago when I was chairman of the UL Greyhound Society. Dennis was one of the first people to call me up and offer his support in any way possible, and he's always been a great supporter of the game. And I'm absolutely delighted. I was back his neck of the woods last night doing a gig for a friend of his in Killarney, in Reedy's, and it was happened. But I am so delighted for them. I'm so delighted for them. So, but a huge thank you to Dennis. Fantastic sponsorship, and best of luck to Callaway Pro Am at Stud. He's going the right way.
Listen, Joe, keep flying the flag, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks again, and we'll be back in just a moment. It's race week in Galway. If you're making a trip to Ballybrit, it could be worth your while taking in a night at the Dogs at Galway Greyhound Stadium. There'll be greyhound racing on Thursday and Saturday night. Why not make it a proper night out and take advantage of the great value restaurant offers on www.galwaygreyhoundstadium.ie. We'll see you there. Yes, our thanks once again to Joe Sheahan there as we look back at the quarterfinals of the Leger. Of course, it continues at Limerick on Saturday night with the semi-finals. Now, Tommy, we're off to Shelbourne Park. A big weekend. All started on Friday because we had the second round heats of the Time Juvenile Derby. We had 4 wonderful heat winners, a fastest heat winner in Rural Pest, but a lot of people were talking about Ballymac Stud after racing. It was a big performance from him to win, but also Zenith Micmacher won in fine style, as did Ballymac Lake. It's just starting to come to a bit of a boil, Tommy.
Yeah, I actually, do you know what? There wasn't something you couldn't take from each of the heats to say that they were very impressive in their own way, very different ways, but in their own ways. Even starting at the very start, Zenith Micmacher. I mean, Ruby's faithful. Yes, she had to, check inside, outside, and eventually, it kind of took its toll. But the way Zenith Micmacher went to the escape was as impressive as any part of it. I mean, there's a dog that'll stay 550 standing on its head. I mean, it'll power 550, and is improving rapidly. It's gone from 215 to 230 to 203, and sometimes when you dog that you don't expect to fly out does a fast sectional early, it can tell at the end of the race because you've got a certain amount of reserve, certain amount of ability, certain amount of energy, and it'll tell at the other end of the race. Didn't. Far from it. Zenith Micmacher is getting bigger, stronger, and just better.
Yeah. The breeding is there. Obviously, the early speed is coming from Ballymac Best, but Ballymac Minton is throwing plenty of stamina. Obviously, he's a brother to Ballymac Tibet, who we know is very,
Mm.
very strong. But if you go back through her litters, there's one or two that really stand out. JT Craze is obviously a top class stayer. Out of Ballymac Minton, we know how good he is, exceptional performer. Ballymac Marcia is very strong, and of course you go back to her first litter, Ballymac Whisper, a Laurels runner-up, Kingdom Derby winner. She was very strong as well. So there's a nice combination of early speed and strength there. And like it's so rare you get both into progeny. But Zenith
Mm.
McMacker, I have to agree with you. He was so impressive to the opening corner, and then so impressive from the final bend home.
Yeah.
If he does have a place where he's going to be caught out, it may be down the back straight. You saw the Lighty Brace bitch in second, Drewby's Faithful, showing all sorts of pace to really challenge him, and she did. She's forced in and out. That's just puppiness as well as everything else. At the same time, Zenith McMacker, you could tell, just didn't want to be passed. Like there was an essence of him cutting her off down at the third bend, and I was hard not to be impressed by him. Like very, very
Like,
impressed and well done. The man that owns him, Birrell Nadir, has put an awful lot of money into Greyhound racing. Trained by Corona Ryan, who obviously is something like royalty down in Limerick. Her family have been involved in greyhounds for many, many, many years. This doesn't carry the beaming prefix, but I'd say Corona Ryan left Shelbourne Park on Saturday night beaming from ear to ear.
you'd have to. Ruby's Faithful is a very fast bitch, and she's going to develop into something quite special. But like, yes, she went inside, outside. As you said, it's puppish, but also you've got to have. She's making a decision that maybe I can't get up the inside there, so I'll have to switch outside, or I can't get up the outside. You're making the decisions because the pace that the one in front is doing. I think that's a terrific performance. It wasn't the fastest heat, but by God, was it a good performance.
Yeah, no, fine display by Zenith McMacker and indeed Drewby's Faithful. Ballymacmint, she didn't get the start that she needed. She probably
Mm.
would have needed to set the pace. But for her to qualify in third there was a fair achievement. Like, the other three are fast. Sunshine Sue is extremely strong and made to measure is extremely quick. Yes, they all found traffic in behind, but Ballymacmint had to work hard. She herself found a bit of traffic off the second bend. She was the 5-4 favourite, but her goose was cooked from the opening stride. Yeah, as we said, Zenith McMacker leading home, Drewby's Faithful. Now on to the second heat, and well, this is pretty easily described. Rural Pest, fast away always led. It was a contest, Tommy, where there wasn't an awful lot of early speed. The early speed we were probably expecting to come from Patterdale Timmy, although he had limited Shelbourne Park form. He didn't get the start he needed. He actually took a tumble at the third bend, but he did finish, thankfully. But Rural Pest, this was over from early. He's a dog that he's been on my radar for a little bit of time. Uh, I really liked him one or two of his early starts. Firstly, his debut at Shelbourne 28:45. He'd won around Clonmel and he'd run well down in Tralee. But for me, he looks a real 575, 600 yard greyhound. Just didn't quite get into the corner over 550 yards. Just a dog getting up his inside. And I thought that would certainly be the case over the 525. He ran on very strongly in the opening round. But on this occasion, 202 flashed out and quickened up into the bend. Maybe just a dog that's finding something. Maybe a dog that's just found that little bit of extra toe into the opening corner. Maybe with experience, knowing now that he needs to drive the bend that bit more. So much to take out of this. 28-15, just a stunning performance.
Yeah, I still think he's strong. He's stronger than he is lightning early. I still think that like he's like Ballymac Tibet. There was a funny kind of a there's a kind of a bump between two dogs in front of Ballymac Tibet. Now he wasn't going to impede himself, but but they went home. The winner was kind of holding that and doing it in good style. I still think, like if you could say that it's going to do 202 every night or something similar to that, or the equivalent over 550, you'd say this could be a dog that could go to a quarter final of Derby, and then because he's a young dog that could improve, it could be a dog that could go to a semi final or final of a Derby. So, I'd like to watch the next couple of heats before I get carried away by Roar Pest performance, but it's still 28-15. It's still a huge effort. I thought Bally McTibet ran well. I thought True Michael King ran well actually in third place too, but Rural Pest was, you said it at the start, it was easy to describe, popped out and made all, but I just still think his asset is probably from the second bend home.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But it is very encouraging, and connections
Yeah.
will be clinging on to that hope that this is
Mm.
now going to be the norm. If it is, I'll tell you something. He's going to be a force
Yeah.
because he can go faster.
Yeah.
The pace he was showing over 550 and 525 yards coming from off the pace would suggest that you know when he does get used to getting, sort of setting his own standards out front or setting his own sectionals out front, he could go quicker than the 28:15. In behind, again, we said it, there was no look for Patterdale Timmy, no look for Glengar Silent, who I think is a big, big future. Zenit Gizmo, Toolmaker King. There is a big run them, Tommy. It's bubbling under the surface. He's going to get loose some night. Whether it'll happen in this Juvenile Derby, I don't know, but his connections will be hoping that there's a fast start there some night and he gets loose. And Ballymac to bet, we just know how strong he is. He probably wants further. There's no question. As fast as he went in the opening round, he does need 550 yards minimum, I would suggest, going forward. On to the third heat, Ballymac Stud. This was a greyhound who, let's not beat around the bush. He was very disappointing in the second round. Or in the first round, he looked so good, so sharp in the open on race stake. But he's a puppy. First time he ever met adversity in the opening round and just didn't perform. He finished fourth, but he qualified because of the suspension to one of those in front of him. But the other night, you could not question his resolve. He was right there, banging contention into the opening corner. The slingshot Poppy bitch, she is just dogged. She just absolutely drove across him around the opening two bends. She was not giving up, trying to get across the defence. And as it was, Ballymac Stud had to force to check his stride off the second bend. He got going into the third bend, challenged slingshot Poppy on the outside, took another bump, but it didn't put him off, and he kept on going. And the way he ran the other evening, he did look like a dog that would say 550, whereas I would have been a little bit doubtful in the open on race stake. I think this dog is improving leaps and bounds, and just given the fact that there was plenty of money for him in the anti-post market, and the fact that the firms, even though he's so badly beaten in the opening round, one of them actually cut him. So there's obviously been further money for him. I would suggest that this fellow has shown an awful lot at home, and I would suggest there's probably an awful lot better to come from him. And while it was the slowest heat winner, he probably is a worthy favourite, knowing that he can go up as well as he can.
Yeah, I think that's we looked at the first couple of heats and we thought, you're saying Zenit Macker has early pace. Rural Pest, we'll see what you know how he develops that way. Does he have it on a consistent basis? But we know Ballymac Stud has from the unraced stake the early pace he showed in that competition was fantastic for a dog of no experience, obviously. Um, this is just another string to his bow. I think that's you've always got a question mark when a dog can does what he did in the three rounds of the unraced, and then you say when it was put up to him and he didn't, he finished fourth. You kind of get disappointed by it. But this, he could easily have finished fourth here or fifth. He could or fourth probably with the way the race panned out. He could have finished fourth and not qualified. You take away the positives, and he probably has to be favourite. I would say there are shades of Glengar and Martha about Slingshot Poppy, if you ask me. She
Yeah.
just feels like the type that's going to. I know she didn't qualify the other night. She's a very young pup. Showed some attitude to get across. Ballymac Stud, who broke very well from the inside to catch him, get by him, and go a couple clear down the back. Um, I think she's going to be very, very, very good.
Yeah,
And itself,
if she continues to show that type of attitude going through, given the fact that she's so professional at boxing, she's so much early speed and the determination, she's going to win an absolute hatful of races. And if things fall right for the
imagine.
right competition, she's more than capable of winning it, no question.
But it just strikes me as Glengar Martha, where she came from. She similar kind of. She built up to doing something really good
Mm.
because we always thought the clock could be there. She built up to doing something really good. I think this lady's going to be the same. And you only look for when they're young pups. You only look for something. You look for some little facet
Yeah.
of them that you say, hey, that could be special in that department, and then they can develop the rest around. It doesn't have to be elite, but it has to be pretty good. I think she's going to get there.
Yeah. Montana Shadow, it was a better display from him in defeat the other evening than it had been nearly in victory in the opening round. Still hasn't quite just taken, not to Shelbourne Park. Obviously, his new surroundings. I know he had one or two little niggles. I still think there's much better come from this fella. I really liked him in Kilkenny. I suspect he was purchased not to be doing 28:59 in Shelbourne. I suspect he was purchased to be doing a half second faster, and I think he may get there. Get up the boy he's due some luck. He's showing all sorts of pace. He's 4 or 5 races now without a success, but like he's one of the more talented maidens in the country. Yes, he hasn't posted any massive times, but he's shown massive pace in places. And it's like you just said, Tommy, you're just looking out for something. And this fellow has something. It's just a case of it. The penny is not fully dropped yet in terms of the trapping and whatnot, but there's no question he can run. And just don't be surprised if he was to make it through to the final. Now to the last of the 4 heats. And I must say, Ballymac Lake did enough in defeat in the opening round to step up in his previous form at Shelbourne Park to tell me that there was a run coming from him. I didn't go as far as to tipping him the other night. I went for Carrick Scalzi, who I've always liked. He didn't get the start he needed. Solo and Go didn't take a flyer, showed terrific early speed into the opening corner. He's another member of that Ballymac Best, Ballymac Minton litter. He's more Ballymac Best than Ballymac Minton because he does find the trip really does stretch him. Ballymac Lake, in contrast, a brother to Ballymac Stud, he does a bit of everything. He's a real all-rounder. He's not flying into the corner. He's not flying home, but he just does everything right. And 28.35, I don't know whether it's his colouring or something. There's something about him reminds me a little bit of like young the laddie da, and you know how much I thought of him as a pup. But whether he'll reach the same heights, I don't know. But I'll tell you something. He's going the right way. He's progressing every single night, and a good success. We've got to mention Solo and Go, owned jointly by David Clifford and Paddy Clifford, who had a pretty remarkable Sunday. They'll have hopefully a good weekend. Look forward to next weekend now with Solo and Go taking part in the semi-finals at Juvenile Derby, and who knows, we might convince them to get there for the final. Stranger things have happened, but a 1-2 for Liam Dowling and 5 qualifiers to the semi-finals of the Juvenile Derby.
Yeah, they've had a decent weekend. I think Solo and Go is still a player in this.
Yeah,
because I think that was an improvement. As you said, missed the kick and showed massive early pace. And maybe there isn't that monster early pace in the competition, and there's an opportunity there for something to take it. Ballymac Stud or himself to take the bull by the horns and just go for it. And I think the Solo and Go. I just feel he's a dog that's bubbling under a little bit, ready to do something, like ready to get home. If you think the other night he did 28.35 on the clock, was it 45? Sorry, 28.45 on the clock. In defeat. But Ballymac Lake did, for a dog that doesn't have monster early pace, he did exactly what you want him to do. He popped out, which was able to leave a little bit of trouble behind him. And then he did get outpaced by a specialist early pacer, but was able to hold a position well and then powered home. Took a while to get to Solo and Go. I'd come away now from that heat thinking both of them are going to go a long way.
Yeah, no, the lot to like about both of them. Solo and Go, as you say, he has probably, he definitely has the superior early speed, but it's that little bit of X factor because he has so much early dash. Because he really is only third or fourth to hit the ground. And by the corner, he's in a comfortable lead. He stretched it on, and yes, Ballymac Lake was too close for him, but a lot to like about it. It's an intriguing puppy derby. They are obviously 12 very fast greyhounds. Just not quite easy to put your hand on and say which one's going to win it. But there's no question that there'll be a good winner. I think that's inevitable at this stage because we have 12 fast greyhounds there.
I wouldn't back Ballymac Stud if he's favoured now. You have the betting in front of you, do you? I wouldn't back Ballymac Stud to win it.
Yeah,
but I can understand why he has to be favoured.
Yeah,
but it's still wide open. I don't think something's raised his head above the parapet and said, "I'm going to win this." I don't think there's something. I think he's done that yet. It's still wide open.
Right, we'll return to the Juvenile Derby next week, sponsored by Time Greyhound Nutrition, of course, because we're going to stick with Shelbourne Park. We're just going to give a mention to the Maiden Derby on Saturday night. Got underway, €10,000 to the winner. We are all expecting a big run from Magical Major. He's a dog that's doing an awful lot of talking. In fairness, I'm doing a fair bit of talking for him, but he just missed the kick from 4. He stepped in himself as well, found traffic, badly balked at the corner, and it just didn't happen for him. 4 good heat winners. Razzle Dazzle Camaria, always close to the pace, always up front and got loose and kept on finding Colours Are Green ran well in second spot. A High View Plan ran on well for third spot. But Razzle Dazzle Camaria, Dolores Ruth actually said to me before racing, make sure you include us in any forecast or trio permutation. She said he's in great nick. Well, she wasn't wrong. 29.79 from the front. Rolo Tokyo was the one that caused the traffic in the second heat. Walked out of traps. charged up into the opening corner and just said, "Get out of my way," to his rivals and forced his way around in front. Love to see that in the Greyhound. Don't like to see the traffic on the outside, but they were all well and all stood up. It was fine. Lenny's Madge was second spot. She stays on well, but Rolo Tokyo. 29.69. You'd suspect with a better start, he's capable of going at least 3 lengths faster. Could be a really nice dog out of OIU penalty by Coulivan Hoffa. Obviously, he'd won the Carroll Memorial down Dundalk. The third heat was won in just good fashion by Brunch Pal himself, and Hackney Shorts had a good battle into the opening corner. Brunch Pal just got the better of his rival and basically maintained a lead of 2 lengths all the way around to win for David Murray. Nice type of dog. Hadn't seen it, well, had seen plenty of him, but this was the first time he sort of really came to my attention, despite the fact he'd won in Shelbourne 29.63 for the 550. That was in A3 company back in May, but no, this was a notable display by him. And then the last heat was the fastest of the heat winners. Shanahy Boomer for Kieran Lynch and the Bait the Ditch Syndicate. Tommy, it's son of good news. He had some good form in Shelbourne as well. In his previous couple of starts there, he'd won in 28.47 to 525, but some decent Cork form, some decent Waterford form. So probably no surprise to his connections, although he's returned forward to on the other evening. What I liked about him was he showed a lovely turn of early speed. Oriawali was in second spot, Lenny's Dream back in third. That's a competition worth keeping an eye on. Tommy, anything there you want to add about the Maiden Derby? Won by Bombay Plant last year, of course.
Yeah, the Shanty Bomber had a couple of 323s, which are lightning stuff. That you do get at some stages dogs doing 315, but that's everything has been placed, the track as well as the dog and everything else. But like a very fast early pacer. I just one dog. I was impressed with Razdaz Kamari. I thought I liked the performance. Didn't know much about him, and I know he has a bit of experience. So I didn't know much about him. And it was nice to see Colours of Green kind of back to himself after kind of things just really, really not going his way. No, they didn't go his way in some ways the other night because he went to go inside and outside and just didn't happen for him. But actually, it was a better experience for the dog all the same. And I think
Yeah,
he's going to
absolutely.
slow.
Typically with Paul Hennessy, he's going to be given time. There's no
Yeah,
question about it.
there's
He's only learning. He's only settling into his new surroundings. So a big performance by him in second spot. That competition will continue Saturday night, I assume, while the Juvenile Derby continues on Friday night. Now, Tommy, we have to get to the Irish Sprint Cup. We have to give the Casco a mention down at Curraheen. But before we do, we have to talk about a trial, which is not something we often talk about. But Bockos Diamond did 1684 at Cork the other night. You see 1684, you go, oh yeah. You're thinking to yourself, what trip is that? Nah, couldn't be. Couldn't be. 1684 for the 330 yards. The clock is 1714. He just took 30 spots off it. Obviously, he doesn't break the track record, but he dips under it. Stunning. But it basically tells us what we've always thought about this fellow. I think I've said it in this platform that if he went to Dundalk for the 400, he'd do 2040. Like, he's just that fast a greyhound. His early speed is unmatched. It's incredible. 1684 though, Tommy. Did you ever think you'd see the likes?
well. I always thought, you have these kind of ideas in your head that there's something wrong when there was a time there when Quietly did a track record. The track was fast, but Quietly, and if I remember right, I think it was Hee Haw Sheriff was I think they were both Ian Riley dogs. They were doing really fast times around similar-ish time anyway. And I was thinking, God, 17, 13, wow, that's or 17, 14, that's some run. I thought, it was away from what you'd normally see in week on week sprints in Curreen. So it kind of sticks in your mind. You go, wow, and will that ever be broken? And there hasn't been anything really come close to it. And if you saw a dog doing a trial doing 17:30, you go, phew, there's a
Yeah.
proper greyhound. We see a dog doing 1684. Now we don't need to be told it's a proper greyhound, but 1684. And the beauty is, if you want to see it, there's a lot you can see in a dog doing a sprint trial, but the videos are available. And just turn the audio up for the for the end of the trial. It's worth listening. It's worth listening to.
It's very
It's
cool.
just
It's very how would you say it? It sums it up perfectly. Just as they
sums it up
cross
in
the
one
line
in one
and the
word.
time
In one
flashes
word.
up, there's one observer and he just lets a roar. Christ!
Yeah, it's like it's um what do you even say about it? Do you know what I love about it? And this is what I wanted because like you put them on a pedestal and then you get worried. And I was worried about going to Toaster because it's Toaster. And I think he was beaten in Toaster because it's Toaster, not because he's not Bockos Diamond. And
He
of
was
course it's going
toasted.
to
He was
put a
toasted, as they say.
he was toasted, yeah. And it's like it's just going to put a tiny seed of doubt in your mind about a greyhound. And then he goes back into 1684. You go, yeah, that's where I wanted you to be. That's where we wanted six. I don't need the 1684 to prove it, but my God, that is. I mean, I'd love to see 17 seconds broken in a race just to say it was done in a race down there because that's a magical figure. We talked. Geez, do you remember the time, Ian, when we were saying, geez, that dog broke 29 seconds? Now we're saying that dog broke 28 seconds. Now the track record is 28. What is it in Shelbourne Park? 50 something, 60 something, whatever it is.
27.58.
Yeah, like so we're kind of in no man's land, but there we still have a barrier here. We want to see the dog break 17 seconds in a race, but Bockos Diamond will never sprint in Curraheen Park in a race, unfortunately. But wow, wow, it was something to watch.
Just
And
to
you know the
highlight,
best thing, the best thing about it, Ian, is we've talked a lot about Curraheen Park, and any trainer you talk to will say the same thing. You know, a large number of them will say we go to Curraheen Park to trial because the track is really well maintained, which means that a huge number of top class dogs have been there, have trialed, that trip, the sprint trip in Curraheen, the 5-2-5 trip. It's well worn path. And yet we're not seeing videos of them. Why not? Because they're not doing 1684, but there's loads and loads of top class dogs that have been around.
to put it into
It's
perspective, quietly 17.14. Like the next fastest time ever is 17.24. So like quietly himself stood out alone, but for
Yeah,
a
he
dog,
did.
lots faster.
I remember it well.
Absolutely. Just remarkable. The only time I can ever remember a trial making that sort of an impression was, we're going back a long, long time now, Tommy. Uh,
Mm.
I would have only been 12, 13, 14 years of age. Paul Noon Chief,
I wouldn't have been born.
28.55 around Shelbourne Park. At the time, the clock had been standing for years at 28.73. I think it was Tantalin Zig or Zag. And this dog, obviously, he was massively fast. He was a Puppy Derby winner from the previous year. He'd done 28.55 at Shelbourne. It was unheard of. Like, there was headlines about Paul Noon Chief. So, yeah, that's how I sort of equate it. But listen, thankfully, our man Barry Drake was on the ground and he did catch up with Timmy Holland. And this is what Timmy had to say about the trial.
So I'm joined here at Curraheen Park with Timmy Holland of the Riverside Kennels, and I think it's fair to say that social media has exploded over the course of the last couple of hours after we posted the phenomenal 1684 performance of Bockos Diamond here. Can you put into words, of how special a performance that is here tonight, Cork?
It was super run. Like probably done everything right, but look, it's nice he's still able to do it. Like, and he's super dog, and look, hopefully put some right for the Derby there now. That's the plan.
You've obviously put a lot of dogs around the 330-yard trip here at Curraheen Park. I think it's over 10 years since quietly posted 17-14. So were you surprised even? We know how good he is with the clock.
Well, he's been going fairly. He's had it unofficial there last week, and he went fairly well in that. Probably didn't go that well, but he went fairly close to the clock there during the week and that. So look, hopefully he does it in the race now. It's alright doing it in trials, but hopefully he does it now in the race.
Exactly. Look, it's an exciting time, I suppose, for all at the Riverside Kennels and of course all greyhound racing enthusiasts all over the country. Only a couple of weeks to go now for the Boyd Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. You must be really excited.
Yeah, like things are starting to get in motion and that. Like we trialled a few there. Chief Cam's trialled last night. We trialled well in Bombay Pat there in Limerick. So all systems go. Like hopefully, you seem to get the crowd out there for the trial and that. But hopefully, it kind of gets the crowd going and that. So.
Yeah, exactly. Look, best of luck going forward, and always great to speak with you.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks.
Yes, well, from one sensational sprint effort to 6 sensational sprint efforts, because on Saturday night at Dundalk we had the second round heats of the Bar 1 Racing Irish Sprint Cup, and yes, everyone was expecting another brilliant display from Broadstrand Sid, despite a very tricky draw out in Trap 5. 4 was taken out, some cash out. It left a vacant box on his inside, but it scarcely mattered because he popped out. And yet he didn't win all that far. Lenny's Tank proving in defeat that Broadstrand Sid will have to work hard to win this and defend his Irish Sprint Cup trophy. But 2070, Tommy, and I have to say, I don't think he was overly fluent at the opening corner. Yes, he stays a much tighter line than his rival and he makes use of it off the second bend, but what a run by the winner. Lenny's Tank does 2075. It's worth remembering that if Broadstrand Sid didn't exist, the clock would still be 2073. That's a hell of a run by the dog in second, who was so lightly raced.
The funny thing about it is it's an absolute carbon copy of the previous week. In the sense that Lenny's Tank showed massive pace into challenge at the first bend, came across in tight to the bend, bumped off Broadstrand Sid, lost a couple of lengths and then flew home again. And it's a carbon copy. Have a look at the two of them. I mean, he probably lost a bit more, was slightly behind Broadstrand Sid last week, but it's nearly the exact same thing. He is a savagely fast dog, Lenny's Tank, because I think, like you said, the Broadstrand Sid is going to improve on this. And I think the track record will go again in this competition. The way these two are run and other greyhounds in the running. You said there were 6 good performances, 6 good sprint performances. Even the dog that won the heat after Ballykill Noel won a race straight after the 6 heats of the sprint with another sprint, and he did 21:01. I mean,
and that's not when we go, oh, track's going well. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. This is a brother he's a half brother to the likes of the Jack Tavern Bolt and Balnakill Alf, and he'd shown all sorts of promise on debut at Dundalk. His first round defeat was only his second ever start, and he walked out 7:34. So no surprise to see him doing that 21:01. Just a really, really fast bunch. But just to put it into perspective, Broadstrand Sid now has the top 4 fastest times ever at Dundalk: 20:57, 20:60, 20:67, and 20:70. Next is Brody's Magic, who of course held the clock before Broadstrand Sid, and then you have Lenny's Tank and Elite Kursk, who, would you believe, trialled back last week, had a hand slip, having broken a hock. Hopefully we'll be seeing him back in order. He came off the track right as rain. So great to see Elite Kursk on the way back, last year's runner-up. But Broadstrand Sid, just a remarkable dog, but won't have things his own way. Lenny's Tank is immensely fast, Tommy.
I do think after the other night that Broadstrand Sid will win the competition. I think Lenny's Tank still needs to learn to track a little bit differently. Just to track a little bit more fluently that first bend, cleverly, because he's coming in so tight that he's getting that bump. It's nearly in the exact same spot both nights, and it doesn't matter. Well, I was going to say it doesn't matter whether it's Broadstrand Sid or what dog will be there, but there won't be too many dogs in that position in front of Lenny's Tank at that point of a race anyway. So maybe it is only Broadstrand Sid he'll bump it, but there are no. I say that kind of joking because you've got Stone Park Brown there and Southwind Wild and all these Epic Ace who's not breaking but showing unbelievable pace, and you got the Drewby's Patriot dog that won the first heat. You've got a lot of good dogs. And Dear Sir, actually, did he qualify? I'm not sure if he qualified. Dear Sir, did he finish second? He ran. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he ran some race the other night as well in defeat behind Epic Ace. So, it's. I said it last week. It's a fantastic competition, a fantastic renewal of it. My God.
Yeah, Drewby's Patriot won the opening heat 21:01. Again, just lost probably a stride or two in the opening corner, but just did everything right. He's a really exciting young greyhound. There's no question about it. I thought Ballymac Satanta actually ran very well in defeat there. It was only his second ever start. No More 50 stayed on well to actually grab second on the line from Ballymac Satanta, but I just really like the way Ballymac Satanta ran. But Drewby's Patriot is clearly, he clearly has all the qualities to go deep. Ballymac Jade, fantastic winner of Heat 3. She was the second fastest Heat winner, 2094. She was razor sharp at boxes. She led from the start, 7:09, just did everything right. And to dip under the 21-second barrier like that just tells you where she's at. Southwind Wild is actually her brother. He won in 21:12. Just a talented sprinter, no question about it. That was a race where Pat Buckley had 4 Heat winners. Raharu and Glengar Martha were also involved. Epic Ace was the winner of Heat 5 for Pat Guilfoyle, and of course the Kennedys. Dear Sir was a big runner in second spot, and the last heat was Stone Park Brown, who missed the kick, edged to the inside, but found a way to get to the front, and really liked the way he ran. Sonia Ankara flashed out, did plenty right, just couldn't quite hold Stone Park Brown. Just there's a lot of quality there, Tommy, there's no question. Epic Ace for me is the dog with the real brute pace that could challenge Broadstrand Sid and perhaps Lenny's Tank, but he's gonna have to find that trapping.
I also think Sonia and Cora is building up to something again. I think they just the last couple of performances were just slightly below what Sonia and Cora is capable of. To be beaten by Stone Park Brown is no it's no heavy defeat. Actually, that was a great heat because Road Exile finished fourth without doing a huge amount wrong. And Road Exile might be the greatest gauge of sprinting in Ireland for the last couple of years. It's been in every top competition, and I'm not surprised he finished fourth because, at this stage of his career, the 3 in front of him, including Ballymac Brandon, was only second ever run. Sonia Ankor, who's I think is exceptionally fast, still likely raced, and Stone Park Brown, we obviously know how good he is. I mean, that was a savage heat for only 5 dogs in it.
Yeah,
Savage heat.
hot contest. It's turning into a really hot competition, Tommy. There's no question about it. The Barwon Racing Irish Sprint Cup will continue this weekend. And of course, the final, always on August 15th. So, doesn't matter what day it is, it'll be August 15th. So, pencil that in. Try and get there if you can. Just a wonderful, wonderful sprint competition. And of course, we spoke of Clonbrine Treaty bidding for multiple classic successes. Broadstrand Sid looking to win this for the second year running. Tommy, before we go, I just want to give a mention to the Casco, which commenced at Corraheen Park on Saturday night. And the first heat winner in particular was mighty impressive.
And to be short, yeah, it's a huge run. So I think it's only second ever run. Not a surprise to see us either. And Johnny Linehan, and I think you mentioned something when we were talking about this beforehand. It was the third ever run. The Droopy's dogs in general are having a pretty good time, aren't they? You did point something out beforehand.
Yeah, there was a couple of stages there, like for 2 or 3 years there, where they were a little bit off the boil, but just the last 3 or 4 years just been stunning. Every dog seems to have Droopy's bloodlines in it. But has to be mentioned, the Sussex Stakes. Aoife Dunphy actually pointed out to me that all 6 finalists, the Category 1 in England in Hove, one of the best Category 1s, given the fact there's run at Hove, true test of a greyhound, 6 sons or daughters, I think it's 6 sons of Droopy Sydney. Just, I've never seen it. I've never seen it before. We've spoken about it happening before, 4 and 5 in finals. I don't think he's ever had the 6, but Droopy Sydney's dead nearly a year. That's just unbelievable, Tommy, from a dog who I would say in 10 years' time we'll still be talking about his influence on greyhound racing.
We will, and he only ever had one race, I think, didn't he? He could have Johnny Linehan had him, I think, for that race too. And we kind of missed out on a racing career, unfortunately, for a dog that could have been exceptional. But he's exceptional in his progeny, and I do think the one thing I haven't noticed, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but maybe I think he might have increased the size of the general size of bitches. Droopy Sydney's bitches tend to be quite big. I think now that's not a
I think
tried and
across the
tested.
board, I think they are a bit bigger.
I think they've increased, but like in every as things change in every walk of life, and in every animal kingdom, and things change over time because of little change. I'm actually listening to an interesting book that talks about tipping points, that how things are always there, but they change because of some little thing that happens that has a knock on effect, a huge effect. And I think he's actually he will have bigger bitches and might just have bigger greyhounds in general over the time. It can be a knock on legacy, and I don't see why it can't happen. But be interesting to see if that does happen, because he seems to have apart from being exceptionally big, he's exceptionally good, exceptionally fast. Dogs and bitches. He has been. It's just a shame we didn't have a racing career out, but it just goes to show you how it could easily have been missed. His influence on the game could easily have been missed.
An accidental litter was his first the headlines, and it took 2 or 3 years. It's like Jim Bulger with Galileo. Like someone copped, oh, hang on, he's throwing well here, let's go to him, and someone's after benefiting from it, because he has thrown nothing but stars in the last certainly 2 or 3 years in particular. It's just been absolutely out of this world. But yeah, that's Droopy Sydney, continues to leave a lasting legacy. Well done, Tommy. We got through it. We have to talk about trials. We're after talking about sprints. We're after talking about ledgers, juvenile derbies, maiden derbies. The Casco we even got to mention. Loads to look forward in the coming weeks. The derby is only on the horizon. But before then, we will have 3 classic finals within the next fortnight. Just a remarkable period in Irish greyhound racing. Best of luck. Make sure you get to the track. Again, like and subscribe. That gives us the best opportunity to spread the word. And of course, don't forget to tune in to Barry Drake on a Thursday morning with his podcast again. Like and subscribe wherever you can. Any content that we stick out there, and hopefully will be popping up on your feed. My thanks again to the exiled one, Tommy Lyons, and of course to Joe Sheahan, who was with us earlier on, and he'll continue to strum his guitar and make a few bob for himself. Fair play to you, Joe. But that's it from us and Talking Dogs this Monday evening. We'll see you next week. Good luck, good evening. God bless.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.